this history that we've narrated leaves us with a public school system that most people make use of for one reason or another, and that even more people fund, which is another annoying topic of discussion for the future. And yet, it's not the only way that people get their schooling. It's not even, I mean, it's one of the major ways, but there's so many different school systems that have popped up beyond just the major ones of public, private, and homeschool. Obviously, those are the three biggest. But now you have a bunch of little ones popping up all over the place too. So we're both homeschooled. Where does, as far as you know, like homeschooling, how does the history of that work? Like, obviously, it dies off a lot because of the advent of these other school systems. But then, does it gain a rebirth at a particular point in time? Does it just kind of maintain its status throughout history?
So the current model of homeschooling is pretty young. It's, I think a lot of it has to do with one of two things. It's either, it's born out of either, well, I don't like the way that the school is teaching my children, so I'm going to do it myself. And usually it's done by mom, because mom's a housewife with a lot of time on her hands and children to raise. Okay. So if I just keep them at home, then I can teach them myself. It's born out of that, and in places where the school is too far away.
Okay.
So I would say homeschooling it probably doesn't get any attention until probably the late 1980s.
Okay. And by
as
attention,
a concept,
do you mean just more people adopting it, or?
Well, more just people becoming aware of it, because more people are probably wound up adopting it.
Okay.
For the late 1980s and into the 1990s, and into the late 90s in particular, is when it kind of starts to hit the ground running. And that's also kind of when, homeschoolers are, there's a stereotype of the homeschooler. When something is stereotyped in media, or even just in common colloquialism, it's probably fairly, it's reasonably well known to have gained a stereotype.
Okay. That or the right people just don't like it.
Well, you and I are familiar with what the stereotype of a homeschooler is.
And I'm familiar with not representing it. As are you.
But you and I are also both very familiar with people who were exactly that stereotype.
Yes.
Because we met them in homeschool co-ops. And yeah. I think a lot of it comes
to paint the picture,
from...
by the way, for the outside world, just imagine this as one image. Just imagine that you and a bunch of other of your friends are going to a Lord of the Rings book club. And you sit, you have a great discussion, and then mom comes to pick you up, and you're just hoping that the moms chat for forever, because you're now going to fight each other with swords in the yard. Because one of the kids of the mom who was hosting this whole thing has way too many swords for anybody's good. Except that statement's a lie, because there's no such thing as too many swords.
Hear, hear.
So, this is the epic nature of a homeschool life.
It's either that, or you're getting, you and the boys are getting together once a month to have a talk on a virtue. But before that, you all put on camo and you go out in the woods and shoot each other with airsoft guns.
Can't say I did that, but that is sick.
Also part of the nature of a homeschooled life.
Yes.
And again, there are plenty, because at least two of the guys there have way too many airsoft guns. But again, there's also no such thing as too many guns.
This is also true.
Same logic applies as with swords. So Yeah.
Y'all got to do it, or at least entertain it. But we'll save that for a little bit later into this.
So as far as the birth of homeschooling is, I think it's primarily it comes about as so originally the public schools were formed as a counter to the Catholic schools and as Protestant schools, but they were still Christian. So during the latter half of the 20th century, as the public school starts to get more and more atheistic, a lot of the Protestants, a lot of Christians wind up saying, well, we can't send our kids to the Catholic school because we believe all of the rumors about the Catholic schools. And I don't want them to send my kids to the public school, so I'm just going to start teaching my kid at home.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of has homeschooling, modern homeschooling also kind of has Protestant roots, but Catholic families also start doing this as well, because this is also at a time when, again, particularly in the latter half of the 20th century, Catholic schools stopped doing their job correctly, and children are coming home not knowing their catechism as well. And then sometimes the children are coming home from school believing actual heresy. And so parents are like, whoa, we can't have that.
Yeah, the spirit of Vatican II and the true spirit of Vatican II were very different things. And,
Exactly.
yeah.
And that was my own experience, was there were severe issues because my brother was 4 years older than me. So he was in fourth grade when I was in kindergarten. And by the time my brother's fourth grade year rolls around, my parents have sort of gotten fed up with the Catholic school that we went to, even though it was just my kindergarten year. So I went to kindergarten in a regular school. My brother went from kindergarten through fourth grade. Then as my parents kind of start learning more stuff, then they're realizing, oh, there's a lot of stuff that we're not liking about how the parochial school is teaching our son. And we don't want our younger son to learn these same things, and then we'll just have to correct him and fix their mistakes when he comes home too. So we're going to go ahead and pull him out. And they looked at the other two, because there's 3 parochial schools in this town. And they looked at the other 2 and they went, well, they're not any better. So they pulled me out of that school. They pulled my brother out, and we started homeschooling immediately the next year.
Fair enough.
So that was just my experience of how homeschooling started. And I was also kind of also in one of the, not earliest, but earlier generations of homeschooling, when people were kind of figuring out how to homeschool and how to, I mean, you're the same age as me, so you're in this generation too. When people are kind of figuring out how to homeschool and how to have groups at the same time. Because the reason the stereotype of homeschoolers not being well socialized comes around is because you have kids who never go anywhere until they're 18, and then they just sort of lose it when they leave the house.
Mm-hmm.
Well, homeschoolers then want to stop that stereotype, and that's where co-ops get formed. It's in stopping that stereotype, and then also, well, this gives our kids chances to make friends elsewhere, and we can connect with other homeschoolers and see how they're doing things and what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was brought up in Mother of Divine Grace curriculum, which is an accredited school. It's not a brick and mortar school, but they do have an actual office building in Ojai, California.
Okay. And mine, for the record, was Seton Home Study School, which is also accredited and based out of Virginia.
I don't know that I've ever known that you were a Seton student.
Well, now you do.
You are probably the only Seton student I've ever met that didn't mention being a Seton student every like 5 minutes. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, I guess no. I've only known so many Seton students, so I know 5 others, 5 or 6 others, and 4 of
My
them are my
encounters
siblings.
with a lot of Seton students are how great Seton is as a program, and then I get bombarded with all of the statistics of how well Seton students do in university.
Well, I don't know the statistics, so I can't say, but I haven't heard a
I don't
bad thing
remember
about
what
Mother
they
of
are.
Divine Grace.
I
So
just remember I constantly get bombarded with it. I'm like, chill. I'm Mother of Divine Grace. We're fine too, I guess.
yes, I have heard nothing
And
negative about honestly any homeschool curriculum. Now that I think about it,
there are some newer ones coming out that are a little bit fishy because a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of homeschool curricula are going the way of public schooling. Um,
Mm.
But of the older ones, especially the Catholic ones, particularly Mother Divine Grace, Seton, and Colby, uh, I've never heard anything bad about them. There are things that I could probably say, things that I wish Mother Divine Grace had done better, but that's not me saying anything bad about the program.
hmm I mean, that goes for anything. Like, you could always want something better. And there's so many ways to skin the cat of how do you school your kids and on what schedule, and do you do semesters or trimesters or quarters like Seton does? Potato, potato, you know?